I was 19, still stupid enough to believe hard work meant something. 2 jobs. One at the diner where my hands smelled like grease and regret, the other at a 24-hour pharmacy where the fluorescent lights hummed like a funeral dirge. Every paycheck, every skipped meal, every time I told myself just a little longer, it all went into that savings account. My escape fund, my future. Then the voicemail came. "Emma, sweetheart, it's Mum." She wasn't my mum. She was the woman who married my father and brought Alice into our lives like a Trojan horse wrapped in designer labels. "We need to talk about the account. Just a little loan, darling. Family helps family." Her voice was syrup over poison. I should have known. But I was naive. I thought loan meant repayment. I thought family meant fairness. I came home that night bone-tired, my sneakers soaked from the rain, dreaming of a shower and maybe 5 hours of sleep before my next shift. And there it was, parked in the driveway like a slap in the face. A brand new red convertible, top down despite the drizzle, the license plate practically screaming "Alice forever." Alice leaned against it, grinning like she'd just won the lottery, which, in a way, she had, with my money. My father stood beside her, arms crossed, like this was all perfectly reasonable. She needed it for school, he said, like Alice had ever needed anything in her life. Like need was a word that belonged to her. I remember the sound of my own voice, raw and cracking. That was my college money. Alice rolled her eyes. "God, Emma, stop being so dramatic. It's just a car." Just a car. Just my future. Just every sacrifice I'd ever made, handed over without a second thought. My father sighed, the way he always did when I inconvenienced him with things like feelings. "We'll pay you back," he lied. The rain came down harder. I turned and walked away, my hands shaking, my vision blurring. I didn't even make it to the end of the street before the headlights swerved into my lane. The last thing I remember is the horn blaring, and then nothing. Until I woke up 2 years earlier, the voicemail still blinking on my phone. And this time I said yes. Alice was perched on the kitchen counter, swinging her legs like a child, her manicured fingers tapping against a set of car keys. My keys. The ones that should have opened a dorm room, a future, an escape. "Surprise!" she sang, dangling them like I was supposed to be happy, like I was supposed to congratulate her. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up. That sinking feeling, like when you miss a step in the dark. I looked at my father, really looked at him. The way his shoulders hunched, the way his eyes darted to the floor. He knew. He knew what they'd done. "It's just temporary," he said, like that made it better. Like, temporary, erased the zeros missing from my bank account. Alice hopped down, twirling the keys around her finger. "Dad says I need it for school," she said, emphasizing need, like it was a joke, only she understood. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I just stood there, numb, watching my future dissolve into the leather seats of a car I'd never drive. Stepmother swept in then, all fake sympathy and practiced sighs. "Emma, don't be difficult. Alice has opportunities now." Opportunities. Like I hadn't earned mine, like I hadn't bled for them. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. What was there to say? They'd already decided. I was just the afterthought. The air in the living room turned to glass. Fragile, dangerous, one wrong move from shattering. I watched Alice's reflection warp in the chrome of her new car keys as she tossed them onto the coffee table with a careless clink. That sound snapped something inside me. "You took everything." My voice came out steadier than I expected, colder than the rain still dripping from my hair. Stepmother's smile didn't waver. "Don't be dramatic, Emma. Money comes and goes." Alice snorted, examining her nails. "It's just a stupid savings account. You'll make more." The casual cruelty of it, the way they said these things like commenting on the weather, made my hands fists so tight my nails bit half moons into my palms. I turned to my father, the man who used to carry me on his shoulders. "You let them do this!" His throat worked like the words hurt. Alice needed... Needed? The laugh that tore from me sounded broken. She needed another toy while I needed textbooks, needed an apartment deposit, needed to not work myself sick. Stepmother stepped between us, her perfume suddenly cloying. "That's enough. We're family. We share." The hypocrisy tasted like bile. "You only remember we're family when it benefits you." Alice rolled her eyes. "God, you're always so..." I didn't let her finish. The vase beside me met the wall in an explosion of porcelain and water, sending everyone stumbling back. In the sudden silence, my breathing sounded ragged. "Emma." My father reached for me. I stepped back. The distance between us yawned wider than any highway Alice's new car could ever drive. Without another word, I walked out into the storm. Let the rain hide what my face betrayed. The tires screeched before I ever saw the headlights. Rain blurred the windshield as I slammed my old Corolla into gear. The wipers couldn't keep up, just like I could never keep up with Alice, with their expectations, with the cruel math that always left me shortchanged. My hands shook on the wheel, still smelling like diner grease and shattered porcelain. The radio played some mindless pop song about love. I smashed it silent. Streetlights stretched into glowing needles as I accelerated. Too fast, careless, just like them. Maybe part of me wanted to wreck something beautiful too. Then, headlights, blinding, swerving. A horn screamed, time fractured, metal shrieked as the truck's grille filled my windshield. Glass rained like diamonds. The airbag punched my ribs like a fist. For one weightless moment, I flew. Then, impact, darkness, beeping, the sharp tang of antiseptic. I gasped awake in a hospital bed, my body whole, my skin unbroken. The clock read 2018. 2 years earlier, my savings account balance blinked on my phone, untouched, and on the nightstand, Alice's voicemail. "Emma, sweetheart!" The recording crackled with her fake sweetness. Last time, I deleted it in rage. This time, my fingers hovered over the callback button. Outside, a car alarm wailed. Somewhere, Alice was waiting. I smiled. The fluorescent lights of the hospital ceiling burned my retinas. But it was the date on the wall calendar that truly hurt. June 12th, 2018. 2 years rewound. My fingers flew to my unbroken ribs, my smooth forehead where the windshield glass had carved rivers of pain just moments ago. Or would carve. Time had folded in on itself like a cheating gambler's cards. A nurse bustled in, her scrubs the same putrid green as Alice's favourite nail polish. "You gave us quite a scare, young lady. That fainting spell at school." "Fainting spell?" My voice sounded alien, younger. She patted my wrist with condescending warmth. "Dehydration and stress, the doctor thinks. You teenagers these days pushing yourselves too hard." The lie tasted familiar. They'd always dismissed my exhaustion as dramatics, while Alice's every sniffle warranted an ER visit. On the rolling tray, my phone buzzed. The screen showed 3 missed calls from home and 1 voicemail. I didn't need to listen to no stepmother's saccharine tones would be weaving her web of just a small favour. Last time, I'd thrown the phone against the wall. This time, I traced the cracked screen protector, a flaw that hadn't existed before the accident that never was. The universe had handed me a ledger of debts, and I intended to collect with compound interest. When the discharge papers came, I signed them with a flourish. Outside, the sun glared off car windshields like knives. Somewhere in this resurrected past, Alice was already eyeing convertible brochures. Let her. I knew where every pothole on her joyride would be. The voicemail played for the 3rd time, stepmother's voice oozing through the speaker like spoiled syrup. "We were thinking, Alice's internship requires reliable transportation. I watched my reflection warp in the toaster's chrome surface. Younger eyes, older fury. Last timeline, I'd stormed into that kitchen spitting fire. Now, I buttered toast with surgical precision, let them think their guilt trip still worked. Dad's keys jingled in the hallway. Emma? His voice carried that tentative tone he'd perfected, the one that pretended we were still allies. Your mother mentioned, I'll do it. The knife clattered onto the counter. His startled blink tasted sweeter than the jam. A beat of suspicious silence. Then the rushed, relieved exhale. That's my girl. His calloused hand squeezed my shoulder like I'd handed him a pardon. The moment the door closed, I spat out the bite of toast I'd been chewing. The bread stuck to the sink like wet plaster as I rinsed my mouth. Outside, Alice's laughter floated up from the pool, that carefree champagne bubble sound that used to make my molars grind. I opened my laptop. 3 tabs already waited. A Craigslist ad for untraceable GPS trackers, the DMV portal for private plate lookups, a dark web forum discussing loan shark rates. The screen's blue glow painted my face in corpse light as I typed the first digits of my savings account. Let them take it. Let them think they'd won. Every dollar would be a tripwire. Every mile Alice drove would be a noose tightening. I hit send transfer just as another peal of Alice's laughter sliced through the window. Soon, darling, soon you'll learn what real debt feels like. The GPS device arrived disguised as a tampon case, because of course the internet knew how to weaponize feminine hygiene. I palmed its cool metal surface in the bathroom stall, listening to Alice chatter outside with her latest sycophant. Mum says I have to wait until Friday for the car. Like, what if there's an emergency? Her whine made my fingers tighten around the tracker. Emergency. Right. Because the world might end if Alice couldn't make her 3 p.m. latte run. I waited until she left before slipping into her bedroom, a shrine to entitlement with its piles of unworn designer tags and half-finished artisanal smoothies. Her purse gaped open like a hungry mouth, stuffed with crumpled receipts and loose glitter. The tracker slid between her wallet and a condom wrapper. Unused, obviously. Alice treated virginity like another accessory to flaunt. 2 blinks of the LED confirmed it was active. My phone buzzed immediately. Stepmother's contact photo, a perfectly angled selfie, flashed on screen. Transfer went through. Alice is so grateful. XOXO. The lie burned brighter than the tracker's signal. I typed back, just want to help, and watched 3 dots appear. They pulsed like a heartbeat, like prey twitching in a web. A notification popped up, the tracking app syncing to my home screen. A red dot pulsed over the mall's location, right on schedule. I leaned against Alice's vanity, her expensive perfumes mocking me from their glass cages. The mirror showed my reflection smiling. Let her enjoy the car. Every turn she took, every stop she made, I'd be watching, waiting. The hunt had begun. The tracker's red dot pulsed at a house party 3 towns over. Alice's favourite kind of scene, where no one knew her well enough to call out her bullshit. My fingers hovered over the burner phone I'd bought with cash from a gas station vending machine. 911. What's your emergency? I pitched my voice higher, breathier, the perfect impression of a concerned neighbour. There's underage drinking at 1427 Oak Lane, and I think I just saw someone pass a baggie around. A pause. Units are en route. I hung up and switched to the party's Instagram live feed. Alice was perched on some lacrosse player's lap, red cup in hand, laughing like she'd already forgotten whose money bought the car outside. The police sirens cut through the bass-heavy music before the screen even showed flashing lights. Chaos. Alice's wine-red nails flashed as she scrambled for her keys. The cops blocked the driveway. Whose vehicle is this? The camera jostled, but I still caught the moment her face paled. Mine, but... License and registration, please. I zoomed in on her trembling hands as she fumbled through the glove compartment. The cop's flashlight glinted off the half-empty vodka bottle, rolling under the passenger seat. My real phone buzzed. Dad. I silenced it. By midnight, Alice was in a holding cell. By morning, her perfect driving record had its first stain, and by the time she slunk home, tail between her legs, I was already brewing coffee in the kitchen. "Rough night?" I asked, sweet as cyanide. Her bloodshot eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't understand." Oh, but I did. This was just the first scratch on her pristine paint job. The neon sign of Lucky's Billiards buzzed like a dying wasp, casting a sickly green glow across the pockmarked parking lot. Inside smelled like stale beer and bad decisions. Perfect hunting grounds. I spotted Marco Vescovi in his usual corner booth, his tailored suit too expensive for the dive, the scar through his eyebrow catching the light when he glanced up. Rumour said he'd broken kneecaps for less than the price of Alice's car stereo. "Mr. Vescovi?" I slid into the vinyl seat, the ripped cushion exhaling a puff of dust. "I hear you have a specialty for handling entitled rich girls who forget to pay their debts." His gold pinky ring clicked against his whiskey glass. "Depends who's asking." I pushed a manila envelope across the table. Alice's DMV records, her credit report, and a time-stamped photo of her snorting coke off some trust fund kid's dashboard. His grin showed teeth. What's the play? Let her borrow. Let her think she's winning. I tapped the coke photo. Then call it in to her daddy's country club board members. Marco's laugh sounded like gravel in a blender. He palmed the envelope. "Fig's 30%. You'll get your cut when she cracks." Outside, rain slicked the pavement like oil. I checked the tracker. Alice was parked outside a high-end boutique, probably charging another purse to stepmother's maxed-out card. Let her shop. Every swipe brought her closer to Marco's waiting jaws. Stepmother's secret email account practically sang when I cracked it. Golden Girl 72, password Alice. 3. Predictable to the last character. Her browser history was a trail of breadcrumbs leading straight to ruin. Can I deduct casino losses? Best loans for bad credit? How to hide gambling from spouse? I sipped my coffee, bitter and black, as I compiled the evidence. Wire transfers to offshore accounts, late-night Venmo payments to shady bookies, even a scanned pawn ticket for her grandmother's pearls. All buried under layers of financial spreadsheets. She used to fool my father into thinking she was managing the household budget. The printer hummed softly in the dead of night, spitting out every damning transaction. I slipped the pages into an unmarked envelope, then hesitated. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was arson. The next morning, I watched from the kitchen as the mailman delivered the envelope, addressed to my father's office, marked confidential. By noon, his BMW screeched into the driveway. By 1, the shouting started. Stepmother's porcelain veneer shattered like one of her teacups thrown against the wall. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." Alice cowered in the doorway, her phone forgotten for once, her face pale. And my father? He just stared at the papers in his hands like they were written in a language he'd never learned. I turned back to my laptop, pulling up the car's GPS history. Alice had driven to a seedy motel last night, one Marco frequented for business meetings. Perfect. Time to send another anonymous tip. Alice's Instagram glowed on my screen, another vapid selfie in Marco's passenger seat, her lips puckered around a vape pen. The geotag placed them outside a known drug den. How convenient. I swiped to Marco's contact. "She's getting sloppy." His reply came instantly. "Let her." By midnight, Alice's stories showed lines of white powder on a cracked mirror, Marco's hand resting possessively on her thigh. I saved every frame. The next morning, I accidentally left my laptop open on the kitchen counter, stepmother's gambling confession still glowing on screen. Right as Alice stumbled in, pupils blown, reeking of cigarettes and bad choices. Stepmother's screen could have shattered glass. Are you trying to ruin us? Alice's mascara bled down her cheeks. You're one to talk. I slipped upstairs as the blows landed, verbal, then physical. The tracker buzzed in my pocket. Marco was calling. Time to collect. The call came at 2:37 a.m., Marco's number flashing like a warning beacon. I let it ring 3 times before answering, already knowing what his gravelled voice would say. Your girl's in deep. Through the tracker app, I watched Alice's car swerve erratically across the highway, her speedometer kissing 90. Marco's men had done their job well. Just enough pressure to make her reckless, not enough to make her wise. I muted my end of the call and dialed 911 with my other hand. Drunk driver, heading south on Route 9. Almost hit me. My voice trembled with just the right amount of frightened innocence. The police scanner app crackled to life 10 minutes later. 10:50, red convertible wrapped around a telephone pole. No airbags deployed, no seatbelt, just like I'd arranged. The hospital photos would be brutal. Alice's perfect nose shattered, her designer dress stained with blood and ditch water. When my father burst into my room at dawn, eyes wild, I was already dressed in my diner uniform. It's Alice. I have a shift, I said, stepping around him. Let him see how it felt to be the afterthought. The hospital waiting room reeked of antiseptic and stale coffee, the fluorescent lights buzzing like trapped flies. I sat apart from my father and stepmother, flipping through the insurance documents the adjuster had just handed me, thick, official papers with my name listed as sole beneficiary. There must be some mistake, stepmother hissed, her manicured finger jabbing at the page. That policy was for Alice. The adjuster didn't even look up from his clipboard. Policyholder designation was changed 3 weeks ago. All paperwork's in order. I let my lips curve just enough to watch stepmother's face contort. She hadn't noticed when I'd forged her signature. I hadn't thought to check when the notifications went to my email. Alice's wail cut through the hallway before she even reached us. My car! Her bandaged face was a masterpiece of purple and yellow, one arm cradled in a sling. The convertible was scrap metal now, but her tears weren't for the totaled car. They were for the Instagram posts she couldn't make, the parties she'd miss, the social death of being seen in a used replacement. I tucked the check into my jacket. Don't worry, Alice. I'll put it to good use. Outside, I slid into the Audi I'd bought cash that morning. Black, sleek, everything her ruined convertible wasn't. The engine purred to life as my phone lit up with Marco's final message. Payment received. Pleasure doing business. I glanced back at the hospital doors where my family still stood, fractured beyond repair. Let them rot. The lawyer's letters arrived like vultures circling carrion. Thick cream envelopes embossed with names of firms, too expensive for what remained of my father's savings. I found him in his study one night, hollow-eyed, staring at the prenup stepmother had never signed. She took everything, he rasped, the admission sour with scotch. I said nothing, just watched the ice melt in his glass, the way his wedding ring left a pale indent on skin that hadn't seen sunlight in years. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Stepmother's new lawyer, some slick shark Marco had recommended against her, made quick work of what little dignity my father had left. Alimony, half his pension, even the silverware. Alice wasn't there. Rumour had it she'd moved in with some DJ who thought her scars made her look edgy. When the gavel fell, I caught stepmother's eye across the aisle. Her victorious smirk faltered when I mouthed 2 words. Gambling debts. Her face drained of colour. Marco's collectors would come calling soon. I walked out into the sunlight, my Audi purring at the curb. Let them eat each other alive. The knock came at midnight, hesitant, uneven. My father stood on the porch of my new apartment, his suit wrinkled, his breath sour with defeat. The divorce had finalised that morning. Emma, he started, voice cracking like old leather. I have nowhere else to go. I let the silence stretch between us, savouring the way his fingers trembled around that battered suitcase, the same one he'd packed for me when stepmother decided I needed tough love at boarding school. Please. The word landed like a stone. I reached into my wallet slowly, extracting a single crisp bill. Held it out between two fingers. Interest rates are high these days. His face collapsed in on itself. I shut the door before he could speak again. Through the peephole, I watched his shadow linger, then disappear down the stairwell. The next morning, I found the dollar still wedged in the doorframe. I left it there, a monument, a warning. The highway stretched before me like a promise, the Audi's engine humming in perfect harmony with the wind rushing through open windows. I didn't glance at the rearview mirror, not once. The city skyline shrank behind me, its glittering towers now just embers of a life I'd burned to the ground. Somewhere back there, stepmother was drowning in debts. To men who didn't take credit, Alice was trading favours for rent in some roach-infested walk-up. And my father? He was probably still staring at that dollar bill in my doorframe, wondering when exactly he'd become a ghost. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Marco, one last time. She came crawling for help, told her my rates doubled. I deleted the message. The road signs blurred as I accelerated. I'd chosen the coast for a reason. Salt water healed wounds, or so they said. Either way, it would wash the last of them from my skin. A year later, the postcard arrived at my seaside bungalow. No return address, just Alice's messy scrawl. I know what you did. I held it over the stove flame, watching the edges curl black. The ashes fluttered out the window, carried away by the same breeze that smelled of gasoline and freedom. In the driveway, my new car gleamed under the sun. Paid in full, no debts attached. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for an apology. I got something better. I got even.